He certainly had his struggles, but Drake Maye is doing more with less relative to Jacoby Brissett, or at least that was the case at Tuesday's joint practice with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll break it all down here on Pat's Cast.
Rookie Drake made the talk around. Jacoby's been here, held his ground.
Welcome to Pat's Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you. The Patriots had perhaps their most important practice of training camp with the Philadelphia Eagles on Tuesday outside of Gillette Stadium, a couple days ahead of their preseason game against the Eagles, and overall, it was a pretty rough day. The offensive line really struggled. Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett also struggled with a few shining moments, but not much they could do with the protection in front of them. But Drake Maye might have outperformed Jacoby Brissett on Tuesday. We'll get to all that in just a second, but first I want to share a special offer from ExpressVPN. If you don't have a VPN in 2024, then you are at risk of having your emails, your passwords, your credit card information, the government spying on you, all of your data is at risk. Everyone needs a VPN in today's digital age, and that's where ExpressVPN comes in with the fastest speeds of any VPN network and the ability to connect up to 8 devices on a single account. It's a no-brainer, and we have a great offer for Pat's Cast listeners. Visit expressvpn.com/PatsCast, and if you sign up for the annual plan, you will get your first 3 months free. Again, that's expressvpn.com/PatsCast. You need a VPN. Take advantage of this offer. But as I said, Drake Maye might have slightly outplayed Jacoby Brissett a little bit on Tuesday. I wouldn't say he outplayed him in the one-on-one drills. That's where they started with the Patriots receivers going up against the Eagles defensive backs. Drake Maye struggled initially in the one-on-one drills, going just 6 of 15, but he did have the play of the day on a deep pass completion to Jalen Polk, a really excellent throw and a great catch by Polk. And then he finished the period pretty strong, completing 3 of his last 4 passes, which included key completions to Wallace, Kayshon Boutte, and Tyquan Thornton. Whereas Jacoby Brissett was a little bit more consistent in one-on-ones, but not much better. But I will say, once you got into 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, Drake Maye, at least initially, looked much better out there than Jacoby Brissett. Maye was perfect right off the bat in 7-on-7s, completed 6 of his 6 passes, including a notable deep completion to Javon Baker this time. Brissett didn't do terribly. He went 5 of 6, but his incompletion was pretty badly off target. And he hasn't been the most consistent in terms of accuracy of late, so that's certainly something to keep an eye on with Jacoby Brissett. And then Maye started the 11-on-11s period, going 3 for 3 as well. And you know, it was a little bit of dink and dunk, short check down passes, but Drake Maye is taking what the defense is giving him, and that's really what you want to see from a young quarterback. We know Drake Maye can throw it deep. We know he wants to make big plays. He can make big plays with his legs, which is a bit limited in training camp, but he's taking what the defense is giving him, and he started off 3 for 3, and he did that although he was facing heavy pressure, was sacked multiple times. He really stayed consistent and composed out there, whereas Brissett, on the other hand, although he did have moments of success, he threw an interception, had a variety of missed throws and incompletions, and was sacked a lot more. And I think that's the biggest difference, at least right now, that we're seeing between Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett. And I'm not saying Drake Maye is going to be the starter week 1, but he did make a case today to at least be in that conversation, to have that conversation started. I still think it's Jacoby's job, but the biggest difference is, despite being under constant pressure, Maye managed to avoid turnovers. He kept his composure. He took accountability on his sacks, or what you would call would-be sacks, because he's wearing the red jersey out there, whereas Jacoby Brissett really struggled a lot more with pressure, and that's where he threw one of his interceptions, and faced a lot of difficulties in his final series. But Maye really outperformed him in 7-on-7s, and I would say outperformed him in 11-on-11 drills. And something you have to watch for is, we know this Patriots offensive line is Swiss cheese. It's probably going to continue to be that way as the regular season starts. And yeah, we know Jacoby Brissett can be mobile. He can use his legs, but he's lost a bit of a step from the rookie Jacoby Brissett that we saw 8 years ago. Whereas Drake Maye is a rookie now, and I think has a better ability to extend plays, use his feet, And when you have a battered offensive line, that's really what you need out there. And I think Jacoby Brissett may struggle a lot more than if you had Drake Maye out there. Now, Drake Maye has his limitations, right? Like, he hasn't worked in this West Coast offense under Alex Van Pelt, where Jacoby Brissett has experiences. Drake Maye, a lot of pre-snap issues, a lot of false start penalties, a lot of flags being thrown his way. He has a long way to go if he's going to earn the starting job at patching those things up. So Jacoby Brissett certainly has an advantage there, but I think today it's a lot closer than some people think, and this conversation has to start, right? Jerod Mayo is acting like this is a QB competition, with both of them splitting reps pretty evenly throughout training camp. But like I said, Drake Maye's doing more with less, because most of his reps are coming behind the second-team offensive line, and although the first-team offensive line really struggled today, the second team is horrific. And Drake Maye, if he's able to outperform Jacoby Brissett with inferior protection in front of him, that's a pretty strong case for Drake Maye. And like I said, the woes of the offensive line were a real issue all day. And it wasn't just the tackles, with Vidarian Lowe in the starting unit, with Chuks Okorafor in the starting unit, with Caden Wallace kind of switching back and forth with the second team. We don't know if he's going to be in the first team unit when all is said and done. It wasn't just those guys. It was Mike Onwenu and Sidy Sow, who are the two that you're really going to have to rely on. You know, I think the reason the Patriots aren't putting Mike Onwenu over at right tackle, even though that's what we thought all offseason, that he would be the right tackle of the future, is because they don't want to create another hole there. If you have Sidy Sow, who you're fairly confident in at left guard, David Andrews, who we're all confident in at center, and Mike Onwenu, an all-pro caliber right guard at least, then at least the protection issues are going to be on the outside. You can step into your throw, step into the pocket, and you at least aren't creating a new hole by moving Mike Onwenu to right tackle. Well, both Sidy Sow and Mike Onwenu really struggled today. Sow allowed a sack. He committed a penalty. Onwenu had lots of difficulty in team periods. When Calvin Anderson came in at left tackle as the backup, he was outmatched against Eagles pass rusher Nolan Smith and allowed multiple sacks himself. And it's just a real issue. The Patriots couldn't get the run game going, and overall, they actually had, in the competitive periods, I believe in 11-on-11s, they allowed more sacks than they had completed passes. And look, you can't have a rookie quarterback in that situation. And although I made the case that Drake Maye is better fit to handle a tough pass rush than perhaps Jacoby Brissett can, because of his legs, his athleticism relative to Jacoby, you also don't want to put a rookie out there, have him lose his confidence, and end up in another Mac Jones situation. But, mistakes were rampant all over the place. There were dropped passes, there were fumbled snaps, and many penalties, not just with the offense, with the defense as well. Special teams had a number of penalties, and it's hard to feel good about things. But one thing that you can feel good on is the Patriots' defense. Their pass rush was very dominant going up against Jalen Hurts and company. Their defensive front was consistently in the Eagles' backfield, and with multiple players contributing to that pass rush. There were some issues with the cornerbacks, and especially once you get down the depth chart a little bit, and their ability to cover guys like A.J. Brown, who had an incredible practice. I think he had more than 11 catches in competitive periods. Devontae Smith also was very effective out there with multiple successful receptions. When you have Christian Gonzalez out there, Jonathan Jones, some of those guys, I feel a little bit better. But once you get down the depth chart a little bit, when you're going up against those elite receivers, you're going to struggle. And they really did struggle today. But Jabril Peppers continues to be a standout, very physical, was a real leader out there. He was burning Eagles tackle Lane Johnson left and right throughout practice. Raekwon McMillan, a guy who we don't talk about much, forced a fumble during the kickoff period. So that was really good to see. The defense, I don't think anyone's really worried about the defense. And, you get down the depth chart with the DBs a little bit, then they struggle a little bit. But overall, the Eagles weren't able to do a lot, except for just having lights-out receivers like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who, I don't care who they're facing on defense, they're always going to make big plays, and they certainly did at Tuesday's joint practice. But overall, Patriots pass rush was relentless, even against the Eagles O-line, which is one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. And Devon Godshaw also had a very strong practice, forcing Jalen Hurts to stay in the pocket, and really happy to see him continue to perform the way he has, especially after this contract extension that he has. But again, the Patriots' issues, not so much the quarterback position. They have their issues. We know they have young receivers and a pretty good tight end group, but it all comes down to that offensive line. If that offensive line can be better than expected, then we're looking at a team that can win potentially 7 to 9 games. If it's like we've seen the last couple of seasons, which as of right now looks to be the case, we're looking at another 4-win season. And I don't think we'll be very happy about that if that's the case. I was happy to see Gerard Mayo take kind of a different approach ahead of today's practice. You know, he's had a reputation of being an open, and everyone can talk. I'm a player's coach. We have a little Tykes basketball hoop in the locker room or whatever. We want to get an air hockey table, all that stuff. And I look at that and go, okay, well, the culture might deteriorate a little bit unless you put your fist down at some point. And Gerard Mayo did that ahead of today's practice. And he said, we have a very strict no fighting policy. And fights break out all the time in these NFL joint practices. They break out in team practices, but they tend to happen a lot more during these joint practices. He told the team, if you're a starter and you get into a fight, well, you're going to play the entire preseason game on Thursday. And if you're not a starter and you get into a fight, you're not going to see any playing time. And that got the message across, minimize altercations during joint practice. I think his approach was well received by the players, and it's good that he is starting to balance discipline with his more open, charismatic nature that is Gerard Mayo. So happy to see that. I think he's starting to, especially, and you're seeing this in his media pressers, where like when he first was named head coach, he was answering every question, probably sharing a little too much information. Now he's reeling it back a little bit. He's starting to be a little more disciplined in practice, picking his spots on what he wants to share. And I think we're going to see a different Gerard Mayo, especially if the Patriots inevitably go on a losing streak in the regular season. I think he's going to look a lot more like Bill Belichick at the mic than he is the Gerard Mayo that we saw 3-4 months ago. But I don't think this is a practice where you should be super discouraged. We know what we know. We know the Patriots' offensive line is an issue. I don't like to see Sidy Sow and Michael Wenu struggling against that Eagles pass rush, but I am fairly confident in those two. I'm certainly confident in David Andrews. They just have to sort out the tackle positions, and I don't know if that's going to involve Caden Wallace instead of Vidarian Lowe, who's had a pretty good camp, despite all the hate everyone has for Vidarian Lowe. Maybe that'll be Caden Wallace's job at left tackle. Maybe it'll be Caden Wallace at right tackle. I think Chuks Okorafor is going to be at one or the other, and it's just a matter of, is it going to be Vidarian Lowe? Is it Caden Wallace when we hit week 1? But Patriots have to get that offensive line together because they couldn't get the run game going. They couldn't protect their quarterbacks, and that's not the situation you want to put a young rookie like Drake Maye out there to deal with. Didn't see a lot of action from Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton today. It looked like Joe Milton was getting the third team reps, so that was good to see. So Bailey Zappi seems to be fourth on the depth chart. Now, what will happen on Thursday's game? Are they going to use Bailey Zappi as cannon fodder for 2 quarters before they bring in Joe Milton? I hope that's not the case. I hope we see Milton out there first, and I hope we get some extended periods from both Jacoby Brissett and Drake Maye. We know they're going to get more snaps than we saw last Thursday. I just hope, we at least see Jacoby for a quarter. We at least see Drake for a little more than a quarter, and then can get more of a taste of Joe Milton with third team reps instead of Bailey Zappi, who I don't know why at this point we have him on the team other than to take hits in the preseason that you don't want your rookie quarterbacks to have to deal with. But again, don't be too discouraged by this practice. It's the offensive line that's the issue. We knew it was an issue. And I will say the first team offensive line is significantly better than the second team offensive line. And that's why I think Drake Maye's stock is starting to go way up, because pretty much 100% of his snaps in training camp have been behind the second-team offensive line. In fact, the first snaps he got behind David Andrews happened in last Thursday's preseason game. I'd like to see Drake Maye start to get some snaps with the first-team unit. Just keep the first-team unit out there longer and then alternate between Brissett and Maye and do it that way. And then you can rotate some second-unit guys in and out, but want to see them dwindle down that roster a little bit. Who gets the most reps in practice, and get that starting unit in there with a lot more and mix and match Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett to find out, the most efficient combination that you can put out there on the field. That's what I'm looking forward to, hopefully, in the next week or two. And we'll see on Thursday if Drake Maye does get snaps behind that first team unit like he did last week. But Drake Maye doing more with less, good to see. And I think if you put him behind a first team offensive line, he might look a lot better out there. And we just haven't really seen that so far. And that's why it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples, Jacoby Brissett to Drake Maye, because Jacoby Brissett, even though he's not getting ideal protection, he's getting more protection than Drake Maye is. And I think if you put Drake Maye out there, maybe you'll have a better idea on, is he the better quarterback right now? I'm not sure he is, but his athleticism, his ability to extend plays, he has a stronger arm. He's probably a better quarterback in the red zone. I think he just needs to patch up his pre-snap issues, getting in and out of the huddle, and do a little bit better in up-tempo periods, 1 minute, 2 minute drills, and being a little bit more consistent on leading his team down on 70, 80-yard drives than Jacoby Brissett, where I think he has the advantage there. But Drake Maye hasn't been able to do that with a first-team offensive line. So hopefully we get a little bit more of that on Thursday or in the coming next 2 weeks. And we'll be here at Patscast to cover it. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'll be back on Thursday with a recap from the preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Patscast rolling through this town. Rookie Drake made the talk around. Jacoby's been here, held his ground. Oh, what a showdown, let's get loud. They steps in, throws the ball so clean. Tuesday better than we've seen. Jacoby, ain't a has-been. But Patscast says it's a new scene. Patscast getting ready, stand up tall. Rookie or vet, who's got it all? Patscast the talk around the hall. Place your bets, it's football brawl. Youth and fire versus the tried and true. Patscast, listen, what's our cue? Can the rookie break on through? Or does the vet start anew? Drake Maye's got the spark, but can he take us to the show? Jacoby's grip might still control. Oh, Patscast, let's rock and roll. Future's murky lines blur. Hear the voices, feel the word. On Patscast, the echoes heard. Who's the one who'll lead the herd? But can he take us to the show? Jacoby's grip might still control. Oh, Patscast, let's rock and roll. Future's murky lines are blurred. Hear the voices, feel the word. On Patscast, the echoes heard. Who's the one who'll lead the herd?